Let's see if I remember how to talk to a camera. I put a lot of pressure on myself when I have larger, more important, I guess you could say, conversations on any platform, which is why I feel like I just don't upload at all, because I get this sort of like paralysis around it where I want to do the topic justice. I want to make sure that everybody listening feels validated and seen and heard, and I know that I can't please everybody. I know that not everybody is going to relate to me. I know that I'm not going to always relate to other people, but I just always want to do my best. All I want to do is just tell you, if you are going through something similar and you feel me in any way, shape, or form, you're not alone. I also really want to mention that like I'm still learning. I'm still healing and growing and changing every single day, and selfishly this is also an opportunity for me to connect with you guys the other way around, where I would love to hear what works for you guys. I would love to hear what coping tips and coping mechanisms are working for you right now, what you've done to move through your healing journey. If you don't know, I co-host a podcast called Thoughts May Vary. It comes out every week on Mondays with my best friend Meadow. It's all about mental health and personal development through personal anecdotes and bringing on experts, just creating community conversation, destigmatizing, normalizing all the good things we want around mental health combos. And we came out with an episode a couple of weeks ago where my unpacking had to do with my body. I've shared a little bit of this on our Patreon account just because I feel like Patreon is not a scary place for me. If you want to join our Patreon, it's a great place. We love talking to each other. The link will be in the description. But I shared a little bit about it on Patreon, and that sort of gave me the courage to share on the podcast. And I guess that's now giving me the courage to share here. Basically, if you didn't listen to the episode, go listen to it now because I talk about it so much more in depth. But basically, the Spark Notes version is I have been going through a very interesting time with my body. To make a very long story short, as I'm sure so many of you watching can relate to, I've always had a very up and down relationship with food, with working out, with my body. When I was younger, I was exercising a lot. I didn't eat for a good chunk of high school. And then when I got to college, that sort of changed and shifted. I became hyper obsessed with diets, and that sort of became the thing that I was clutching onto to feel like I had some control. So fast forward, I graduate college, I moved to New York, I start working in magazines. That's a whole different culture. They're not eating is super normal. You're going to a bunch of events, which means you're borrowing clothes from designers, which means you're fitting into a sample size. There's snacks in the office, but no one's eating them. And if you're eating them, people are looking at you. I could go on and on about the different phases of my disordered eating, my obsessive habits with working out and with food, but I don't think that's the point of this video. I don't want that to be the point of this video. I just know that my whole entire life since I was a kid, all I've craved and all I've wanted is consistency. I remember being so young and thinking about being 25. I'm 26 now, and it's so wild thinking back and talking to that little girl, which is me, being like, oh sweetie, if you only knew that at 26 you still feel like you're fucking 15. But it's that desire for consistency that I have continuously gone back to. During the pandemic, I got off birth control. I made a whole video about that. I think it's like one of the only videos on my YouTube channel that like still exists from before I decided to come back on here. One of the biggest things that I was grappling with when I started to gain weight when I got off the pill was that one of the biggest reasons that I got off the pill in the first place was because I wanted to know what my body was supposed to look like. I got on the pill when I was 16 years old and I got off it when I was 24. I didn't get my period until I was like 14. So I had really only been like going through puberty. I mean, I'm not a doctor, I don't fucking know, but like getting on the pill 2 years after you get your period, like you're not done growing. So I didn't really know what my body was supposed to look like. So when it inevitably started to change, that was something that like, I was like, well shit bitch, you did this to yourself. Like what? But with that, here's where we get to the positive. With that came a lot of freedom. I started to feel more like myself than ever. I, at this point, will say like I had done a good amount of therapy and I had done a good amount of like work on the mentals, you know, to like get me to this place. So it wasn't just like I got off birth control and I was like, I'm amazing, but like it definitely helped. That moment in my life just really allowed me to feel really in tune with myself for the first time, I think, ever. And with that came so much gratitude and self-love and self-worth and acceptance around the one constant, which is that our bodies are going to always change and they're always going to continue to change. So that was in 2020, now 2023. I'm now 26 years old. And so the past 2-3 years of my life, I have been on this path of just like loving the shit out of my body as much as it fucking hurts. And that is what I was talking about on the podcast. I have been feeling so confused because I have a lot of fear around not being done. I have a lot of fear around being like an incomplete project. When negative feelings and negative self-talk started to to come up around my body in a season where I'm the healthiest I've ever been and I'm the happiest I've ever been and I love my body more than I ever have, it was really confusing because it was tough for me to understand that two things can be true. You can have all of these beautiful positive things and feel all of these amazing things and at the same time have bad days and have days where you feel like shit and you talk to yourself like shit. It was really uncomfortable for me to share that on the podcast, and I'm like fucking sweating talking about it now to a camera because again of like that fear of just feeling incomplete and feeling like if I admit that I'm having a moment where I'm not feeling confident about something, then that means I'm not a confident person. Healing is not linear, so it can feel really confusing when we have a bad day in the middle of a really good season. Something that has really been helpful for me during this time has been a couple of things. One, which is what I just mentioned, which is understanding that two things can be true at the same time. With that has also come a very specific emphasis on verbiage. A perfect example of this is using the word and instead of but. You can be having a great month with your body and you also had a bad day. But also I've been paying a lot more attention to using words like good and bad when it comes to food and when it comes to working out. Like I never want to say, and I know I've been saying like good and bad this whole video, but specifically when I'm talking about like food and working out, I don't like to say like, oh, I ate really badly today. It just makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong and it makes me feel like I'm wrong and like what the fuck is the point of that, because I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and like I could have the best workout of my life and I could cook the most perfect 3 meals throughout the entire day. Having that awareness around that verbiage has really helped me, which leads me into my next point of the people that you surround yourself with. I am very selective of the people that I keep in my life. Let me just make that abundantly clear, and I think that you should be too. I'm in a new relationship. New, I guess, is a subjective word. We've been together for like 8 months now. This relationship has been so healing for me in so many ways. It's been hugely healing and helpful when it comes to the relationship that I have with my body. Having a partner that not only does not impose their stuff when it comes to like food and working out, because we all have our stuff, onto me is fucking huge. But then also having someone who is constantly reminding me how much they love me, how beautiful they think I am, how much they love my body. Even me saying that, like there's a part of me that's like, why do you need so much confirmation? But like I do, and words of affirmation are like one of my like highest love languages. So like that's what works for me and like that's what I need. I could talk about relationships for 701 years and I probably will make a video, multiple videos talking about relationships, but the one point that I would like people to take away from the relationship segment of this video is to keep people in your life that make you feel good and kick out the ones who don't, because boundaries. Something else that has been really helpful for me throughout this whole thing has been really redefining my relationship with food. I'm like really in my cooking era right now and I'm having the best time ever. There is just something so meditative to me about cooking. I've always loved cooking, whether I have a show on, I have a podcast on, or I'm just like listening to the sounds, because it's very ASMR-y to like cook in silence, I will say. So try it if you haven't. It just makes the entire experience so enjoyable because I'm someone who really relishes, is that the word? Is that a right word? Who like revels, question mark? I'm someone who revels in a great meal, which brings me to my next point of redefining my relationship with my body. Like I said at the beginning of this video, the one constant is that it's always gonna change. Our bodies are gonna change. Our bodies are gonna continue to change. And that is a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful gift that our bodies are moving and changing and growing and making sure that we can survive. And what a fucking privilege it is that this is the meat suit that chose us to take us through this lifetime. And that is a mentality that I keep drilling into my head. I'll like give myself a hug, I'll give myself a squeeze, and I'll just be like, sister, you're fucking blessed. So just tell yourself in the mirror every morning when you wake up, every night when you're going to sleep, take a look at yourself in the mirror and actually look at yourself, make eye contact with yourself, because this is something that I realized I literally never used to do. Make eye contact with yourself because it's uncomfortable sometimes, and that's fine, and just have a moment of gratitude for yourself and for your body and for everything it does for you. And if that is too much, that is so fine. I have totally been there, and there are days where like I don't even want to change in front of a mirror because I don't like seeing what's happening. There's a therapist that I interviewed a while ago. I wish I could remember her name, but I interviewed her a while ago for a story that I was working on, and she taught me the concept of bridge statements. With bridge statements, you're basically introducing the possibility. So for example, if your self-talk is like in the shitter and you're just like not feeling good about yourself, the odds that you're gonna stand in front of the mirror and be like, I'm gorgeous, and actually believe it, are like kind of slim. and that's fine. So bridge statements introduce a possibility. So you would say, there's a possibility that I'm not heinous. There's a possibility. There's a possibility for everything. That tiny little switch done wonders for me. Done wonders for me. So if that works for you, let me know. My uncle is calling me for the 45th time. Let me answer the phone. I kind of lost my train of thought, to be super honest. I feel like we were talking about bridge statements. I could talk about my relationship with my body and with food and with working out and with all of the above forever and ever and ever. And I feel like I just kind of rambled, but if this was helpful and resonated for at least one person, I see you. Leave me a comment or like send me a message, DM me on Instagram. I love feeling connected to you guys, and I don't know, just remembering that I'm not alone and reminding you guys that you're not alone. I feel like it's the least we could do. I think I'm gonna end this video here because this has been a journey and I wish I could remember what I was talking about before I took that phone call. But healing isn't linear. Just please remember that, because I'm trying to remind myself of that all of the fucking time. One thing that I want to say before I end this video is you are worthy of having a beautiful relationship with your body. You are worthy of having a beautiful relationship with food. And the path there is not linear, and that's fine. And you're not alone in that. But remember, you're worthy. Okay, well, thank you for listening to my rant. Thank you for watching today's video. If you liked today's video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe, ring a little bell if your heart desires so you don't miss anything new from me. Leave me a comment saying hello, and I'll see you in the next one.